Oh, welcome to part two. So now we have Stephen here. We're going to talk about what do we do when we have negative stuff on our report.
Right. And that's a really good question because when accounts get to charge off or collection or even into judgment, which isn't impacting the scores, but could impact an underwriting decision because it's on the public record search, most people are under the impression, as we spoke about in the last section, about, okay, I have open charge offs and collections, let me just start paying them. And just to reiterate, don't do that, okay? The first thing we want to do is have a conversation with the lender.
Okay.
Because there are situations where a charge off or a collection doesn't necessarily need to get paid. So if you can not pay it and don't have to worry about updating the data last activity, that could be your path of least resistance. So if there's a charge off and they say, well, based off of our underwriting guidelines, you don't have to pay that, or you could pay it at closing, then that's the best thing to do. Because if you're paying it at closing and it updates the data last activity and drops the scores 40 points, the loan's already closed. So you're in a much better position. There's also situations, again, in a charge off or collection, where you can put it towards your DTI, your debt to income ratio, which, again, not a credit thing, but just from a financial thing, if it fits as a payment they could be doing, then, again, you're not having to pay it right now. You're not updating that data last activity.
Okay.
But let's say we have somebody that are on a 500, okay? And we know 500 FICO score, right? The real one from myfico.com, right? And now we say, you know what? There's a lot of charge-offs. There's a lot of collections. This is somebody that looking till the end of the year or into 2027, that's when they want to be ready. So they want to go in there and actually start dealing with these issues. There's a very specific way to do that and a very specific way not to do that. Because if you don't do it properly, it can make the situation so much worse.
Yes. One second.
ahead.
If you want to know what the FICO score is, what he just mentioned, the real one, then go back and watch part one. Go ahead.
Exactly. So I'm going to start off by answering how not to do it by giving you a real life example. This happened about 5 years ago, okay? And a lady had called me after the fact, unfortunately, and here's her situation. A debt for Verizon was sold to a collection company, showed $1,000. Well, these guys were hounding her, right? They were calling her and calling her and calling her. And finally, she's like, listen, I can't pay you the full $1,000. Can I settle for $600 if I give you my debit card right now? They said, yeah, no problem. Give us your debit card, pay the $600. So that's exactly what she did. She paid this collection company $600. She thinks she's good to go. Ready for this? Real life. 3 months later, a different collection company calls, says, hi, we're calling you about your Verizon debt. What are you talking about? I already resolved it. Oh, so you're verifying it was your account? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Ready for this? They had gone in to the original creditor, to the company from the first collection company. They bought the debt and her debit card information.
Wow.
Now they pulled out another $1,000.
What?
They can do that?
I was going to say that. Is that legal? Like,
Oh, it's not legal. It's not legal.
Oh, okay,
Let me
okay.
be very clear about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shady people out there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm sure we all know some
Then how you
shady
get it
people,
back?
but
You
this
can't get
is...
it back. It's hard to get it back.
So now you go get an attorney, you got to fight them and all this stuff. So my point to that is these type of things do happen, even though they're illegal. And these collection companies are not always above board.
Okay.
I'm not saying all of them do that, but enough of them do it where we want to be sure we're protected. So once we identify that we do need to pay off these charge-offs, collections, or even judgments, and not for nothing, but in the collection world, even the attorneys aren't above doing nefarious stuff.
Okay.
Wow. So you always contact the company, you verify the debt, you negotiate a settlement on the debt, let's save you some money, and then now when we're ready to pay it, no debit card, no credit card, no checking account information. I'm not giving you my financial stuff. Send me the settlement letter. Give me that in writing. I owe $1,000. You let me settle for $600 by this date. Now I'll pay it. How? With a money order or a certified bank check. That way I'm financially protected.
Wow. Makes sense.
Okay?
Now you know.
There you go. Now you know, right? Because people are under the impression of, let me just call. Let me just negotiate something. They sounded so great. They sound like my best friend. They're really going to help me out here. And then, guess what? Causes problems. And now they're leaving the negative information on the credit report. The activity data is getting updated. The scores are dropping. And people are frustrated.
Let me just say this too about that, because I've taken classes on credit, right? And my previous brokers offer it, and you get like a credit certificate. And I didn't know that. So you got one another important thing is making sure you go to the right people to help you. If you want to get help, you got to go to the right people. That's why we're glad you had you there. You here because I always said to myself, I'm proud. I know a lot on it, and I can probably give the class. But now I know. I don't know all of it because I don't do it on a regular basis. It's like almost like with real estate. If you don't do it on a regular basis, it's something that you kind of like. Oh well, I took a class. I'm doing like that. It's not the same as somebody who's been doing it over and over again, and then you figure out like in real estate, this problem, you solve it. Now you know how to do it. This problem, you solve it. You know how to do it, and you go years and years and years, and now you have a wealth of information, and you know how to solve the problem because you've been there, you've seen it, and you've done it.
19 years, right?
Yeah.
19 years.
19 years.
I've been doing this for 19 years, and I love running the nonprofit because it allows me to give this education. It used to be a traditional company, and I decided, you know what? We need to be less reactive and more proactive. It would be better if people weren't in these situations if they just understood how the process works. Now, obviously, if they get into these situations, let's help them through that as well. But if we can give them that information and education, like you're saying, there's a lot of information out there. It's not always right.
Yeah.
Especially in the world of social media. And especially, by the way, the new thing is AI.
Yeah.
AI is going to fix your credit. No, it's not. Stop that. If somebody ever says, oh, yeah, go to this company, AI is going to fix, stop it. It's not. You got to fix your credit, right? If there's issues on there, you got to be the one to go in there and get it done.
One of the problems I have with this whole thing about the credit and stuff like that is that in high school they don't teach you. So you don't learn about credit till when you're 25, 26, when it's already messed up. You know, when you first learn it out when you're 17, they say, this is what you do, this is what you don't. This is what you don't do.
Usually you get your first credit card when you're 18, right? Fresh before college. They don't tell you how to do this stuff.
Nobody
You're
ever
like,
tell
oh, I got
you.
free money, word?
And then pussy, if you have parents or you know what that don't know them themselves, so then they don't teach you, and now you screwed up. You're 30 years old, and you're just figuring out how to fix credit. Where it's one of them, it's probably more important than having money. You know, than having credit and having credit education. So Stephen and I are going to talk after this and figure out how we can get more people involved in learning and being educated about this because it's part of the other. I'm not, everybody know I have a passion for real estate, but I also have a passion for this, like in education. Teaching people what is credit and how to best use it to take a benefit of it. So. We're glad to have you here.
Well, the more opportunities, the better. I was blessed enough last year to actually go to Yonkers High School and teach their class and give them this education. And it's the kids want to know. They want to understand. And when they understand the value of real information versus what you see out there on the social media, it's incredible. The passion they can start having about it because they're like, well, I thought that was real.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is how it really works. And then like, all right, this is cool. Like I'm getting behind the scenes look, and they like that, right? So the more we can get out there in front of it and teach everybody how credit works at the high school level, at the collegiate level,
I believe
young people, they're the first-time home buyers, right? But then again, there are those people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they're restarting, and they need to know how to do it properly.
Yes.
I mean, one of the biggest things right now, it's a bane of my existence in the past 10 years, debt management companies. Debt management companies are killing people's credit. You guys are familiar with debt management companies. That's where they say, hey, look, you have $20,000 in debt. Your credit card, you're paying 35% interest, right? Stop paying them, start paying us, and we'll take care of all this debt.
That's the worst thing to do.
Well, what happens is as soon as you stop paying your companies, all your credit cards, and you start paying this debt management company, they stop paying all your debt. And what happens? 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late. It goes into charge-off or collections, and eventually, 5 years later, once they finish a program, everything gets paid off. But you're left with the disaster of paid charge-offs and collections all over your credit report.
Wow.
So it all sounds good. The steak, the sizzle of like, oh, wow, this guy's really going to help me out. It's not always there.
So if you do have high interest cards, what's the best way to deal with that? If you have $20,000 debt, is there any way that you do
So
it?
it kind of depends on your situation, right? There are positions where you could go and get another credit card and you could do a balance transfer.
Okay.
And that's perfectly okay to do because that can lower your debt as long as you're disciplined, right? Because I'll talk about clients that say, well, yeah, I have 2 credit cards that are maxed out, right? But I'm going to take these 2 cards, I'm going to go open it into a new card, do a zero balance transfer, right? From like 25, 30% to this new card. Well, that's fine if you can actually get approved for it, so that's great. But now you have 2 cards with zero balances. Okay. Oh, I have lots of money I could go spend,
put 'em
right?
away, put 'em away.
Exactly.
Put 'em away.
You got to put them away. I'm glad you said that though, because you know what most
Don't
people
cancel
do.
them. Yeah.
Don't cancel.
Exactly.
Right.
They'll say, "Oh, I'll just cut them up. I'm not going to use them anymore." No. One of the worst things you could do is close your credit cards. Consider like in any of your credit cards, because when you close your credit card, that can mess with your debt utilization, and you might not even know it. Right? I like to talk about this example of if I have 2 credit cards, right? This one has a $1,000 limit. This one has a $1,000 limit. I have $2,000 in limits. Well, if I max out one credit card, but my other card has a 0 balance, I'm at 50% utilization. And it's not great, but it's certainly not terrible. But if this card that has that 0 balance, they say, you know what? He hasn't used it in 6 months, 7 months, and they're going to take that card away, and now that gets pulled out of your overall debt utilization. Well, you're at 100% now.
Right.
And your score just dropped 40 points simply because you closed the credit card or they closed it on you.
Right.
And a lot of people are under impression, well, if the company closes it, it's not going to impact me as much because they're making the decision. Doesn't matter. If you close it, if they close it, when a credit card gets closed, it can severely mess with your debt utilization.
What about credit card history? Like, what if that card was like, say you have one card you had open for 15 years?
Yep.
Isn't that a good thing to have those type of cards on your credit report?
Absolutely. You want that longevity,
Yeah.
right? And you want to continue that longevity. What's very interesting, though, is let's say you had that card for 15 years and then for whatever reason you didn't use it in 8 months and they closed it on you. You're not going to lose the history
Okay.
for another 10 years.
Okay.
Because we talked about when negative history hits your credit, it can be on there for up to 7 years. With the positive history, that can be 10 years. Okay. So you close that card, you'll still have that 15 years worth of history for another 10 years, and eventually it's going to fall off.
What about medical debt? How does that negatively affect you? Because I work in patient finance outside of real estate, and I have a ton of patients that call and says, "Well, I don't have to pay my medical bill because he doesn't get reported." Is that a real thing?
Right. So medical debt in itself, if it's under $500, doesn't show up on your credit report. So that's a new change they made a few years ago, and it's helped a lot of people. However, if it's over $500, it can be reported to your credit, and it can negatively impact your credit. A lot of people are under the impression that medical debt no longer touches you at all. That's not necessarily true. However, it's all based off of the state that you're in. Right? So I do a lot of business in Connecticut and New York.
Okay.
Those states, you don't have to worry about the medical debt. But there's other states that it does show up if it's over $500, so you got to be aware of that.
What about co-signing? You should never co-sign, right? I hear that.
Yeah, well, co-signing is different than authorized user.
Okay.
But authorized user, you can be added to somebody else's account. A co-signer means you're involved with them. And the amount of stories I could tell you where, oh, that car doesn't belong to me. I co-signed for my brother just because his credit wasn't good enough.
Got one night now.
And then what happens? The brother doesn't pay it, and guess what? Those late payments show up on your credit, and they impact your scores just as much as they're impacting him. So a co-signer, you have to be very, very careful who you're actually deciding to co-sign for, because that could drastically negatively impact your credit, even though you want to be convinced of, oh, it's theirs, it's theirs, it's theirs. They don't care. They're going to report it to the credit bureaus. By the way, same thing with divorce.
Okay.
I see this happen all the time. People get divorced and they say, well, stop paying the bills. And then everybody's credit is just falling apart. And then they'll say, well, the divorce decree says that that spouse needs to pay for everything. Well, guess what? Banks don't care about divorce decrees. Credit bureaus don't care about divorce decrees. None of that matters. No judge can say something and then show that to the credit bureaus and have them institute it. It's not going to happen. It's based off the original contract that you have with that creditor. No divorce decree stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's great stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us some of the stories you have, some hard stories. So those I've seen people tend to remember those, and it helps. It's helpful.
Yeah, going back to the concept of having that longevity, right? And this was a situation that happened back, and I won't forget it because it was such a profound situation. In January of 2023, I had a gentleman come to me, and he was an older gentleman, and he was an actuary. You guys know what that is? Like a super accountant, really good with numbers. And he had one late payment the previous month. Now, going into this, he had an 810 on his FICO score. But that one late payment he had in his previous month, and by the way, he ran his numbers, 35 years of positive history.
Wow.
99.997% on-time payments in his 35 years. Take his 810, because of that one late payment, dropped to a 690.
Jeez.
Wow.
120 points.
Are you allowed to go back to, like, say if you have a late payment from one person and you were really late, but you can go back to the bank or Bloomingdale's or wherever you go and say, hey, can you take this off because I've been good for the last 15 years. Was that a mistake?
It's definitely a conversation to be had, right?
Okay.
So first and foremost, there's a lot of errors that go out there, right? Especially in the world of technology and AI and all the platforms that these banks are using and all these other creditors are using. Errors happen all the time. So that's why I say monitor your credit. Make sure things are actually reporting accurately, okay? But let's say there is a situation that, yep, it looks like it could be accurate. Have a conversation with the company.
Yeah,
And that's what I told them.
yeah.
I said, call them. Call them, explain that you've had all this incredible history, see if they're willing to make a concession. Doesn't happen all the time, but it certainly does happen.
Okay.
Same thing happens a lot with fraud. And I think fraud is an important thing to talk about. There's two types of fraud that I like to say.
Okay.
There's real fraud, and then there's memory loss fraud. What I mean by that is people, I'll look at their credit report and I'll say, hey, look, what's this account here? This Yo Chase Bank to the, I don't remember that. I never had that. Well, it looks like back in June of 2023, you opened it and you charged money. And this is where I can always tell if there's memory loss fraud. Well, somebody paid it on time for a year. I've never met a fraudster who opened up an account and then made payments, right? So if somebody's making on-time payments, I tend to be like, this is probably your account.
That's him. That's
Right? So I say, yeah, listen, go make that call. Check on it first.
Yeah.
99.7% of the time, use that number again, they come back, oh, yeah, now I
Yeah.
remember what it was, right?
Yeah.
So there's memory loss fraud, right? And that's just, okay, maybe I didn't feel like wanting to pay.
Yeah.
And by the way, what they're going to see and what a lot of the social media says, oh, if there's fraud like that, just dispute it. It has to go away, okay? It's not true, all right? The other type of fraud is legitimate fraud, which is fine. And there's a lot of it out there, unfortunately, in the world that we live in, right? Whether it's a credit card, I see it a lot with cell phones, okay? There's legitimate fraud out there. But if there's legitimate fraud, right? I've had Verizon for 20 years, and I get a letter in the mail from a collection company that says I owe Sprint. I've never had Sprint, so I know that's not me. I call Sprint. I talk to their fraud department. They have me fill out a police report, an ID theft affidavit. I send that over to them. They process it. Hey, here's a letter. You're right. It was fraud. Somebody had gotten your information, right? That does happen. It can be cleared up.
Okay.
But that's significantly different than, well, I don't think that's my account, or I don't remember it, but there was on-time payments. I mean,
Right.
come on.
It's not gonna fly.
Yeah, exactly. So got to pay attention to these type of things.
Did we ever cover Vantage scores?
Well, Vantage scores are actually the main competitor now to FICO, right? So FICO has been around since the 60s. They got entrenched in the mortgage world and became the monopoly of the mortgage world in the year 2000. But where is FICO coming from, right? So it's FICO getting the data from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion and creating their own scoring and putting that into their scoring model and giving you a score. Well, the interesting part about that is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion have all this data. And so now they're sitting there scratching their head going, wow, FICO's making billions of dollars, but we have the data. So why don't we just make our own scoring model, use the data that we already have, and now we can go and compete with FICO. And that's exactly what they did.
Okay.
So in 2006, they came out with their first Vantage score, and that was the main competitor to FICO. And now they produced up to Vantage 4.0, and they're currently working on Vantage 5.0.
Yo, these numbers, man.
Yeah. And what's very interesting is, as we look ahead into the future, we talked earlier about, in part one, wherever I got to say it, part one, right? Go back and watch part one. But we talked about there's going to be new changes in the new systems coming. What's the most interesting part about that is they're bringing Vantage along with them.
Okay. Nice.
What I mean by that is when you're going to go to a mortgage lender in the future, it's not just going to be your FICO scores. It's going to be FICO and Vantage scores.
Okay.
And that is going to be a bit of a game changer. And the game changer kind of comment behind all of that are two words, trending data. And trending data, and people need to understand this right now.
Okay.
Because although we don't know when this is going to get here, sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, once it does, it's going to shift everything. Here's
Okay.
what I mean by that.
Okay.
in the current model, we talked about, hey, what can we do quickly to try to boost our scores? Well, let's pay down some credit card debt. Pay down your debt, your scores go up 50 points. Now you can go get your loan done. In this new model, that's out the window because it's not going to say what's happening this month. It says, what is your trending data?
Yes.
What have you been doing with your credit cards over the past 2 years?
Yeah.
So if your credit cards are consistently high and this trending data goes live, your scores are going to fall off a cliff.
Wow.
Okay?
For a lot of people.
And think about this, right? So let's say, I know it sounds like forever, December 2027. Let's say that's when it goes live because they keep saying first it was going to be December 24, then December 25. Now it's on pause. Let's just say it goes live December 2027. As soon as it goes live, it's pulling back your 2 years worth of history, which means how you pay your credit card this month is going to dictate what your score looks like 2 years from now.
So it's important for people to know that now.
Exactly.
So that now you know.
Exactly. You
So
got to
now-
start making the changes
it
now.
now.
Because if you just expect, oh, well, I'll just wait,
Right.
and then you go and you wait, and then it goes live.
And that can drop probably
missed it,
a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
For everybody, gonna be dropping a whole lot. It seems like they would say, okay, well, which score we gonna use? That one or the old one? No, they just use that one, the training data, which is probably more accurate because that's what you've really been doing.
Exactly. It's
Really.
realistically, people always say, so why do they keep building these new models? Well, they're a better predictor of risk. If we think about it, right?
For the banks in the
Because anybody could borrow some money, pay down some credit cards for a month or two to get a loan, right? To get your mortgage.
Right.
But can you do that consistently over 24 months, right? And if you're not having that lower utilization,
Yeah, and you think about it, if I was on the other side loaning money, I would prefer to have that. Say, okay, I can see over the last 2 years, yes, you have, versus somebody gets show me and you got money from your sister or whatever, and you paid it down and look like you're a good payer. No, you're not, because I saw. So it's incredible. The knowledge, knowing stuff, knowing.
and getting prepared for it, right? And that's why we say you look at your credit today to prepare for the future, and you start making changes today to prepare for this future because we know eventually it's coming. So we want to make sure that when it comes here, we're in a good spot.
And this is for people who not even already have the house, because you already have the house now, but you never know if you want to refinance or you want to buy. You need to buy a second house, or you want to help your daughter buy a house or son buy a house. It's like for everybody.
This is for everybody, and I love that one. I had people call me. They'd be like, "Oh, I haven't used credit in 10 years. I never thought I needed it again until life happens, and I got to access a HELOC, and I can't because I don't have a credit score because I don't have any accounts because I pay everything cash. Well, guess what? We live in the world of credit, and if you're not developing your credit, when you think you don't need it, is when you're going to end up needing it, and now you're going to be stuck.
let me give public service announcement. All the people that are stashing money under their mattress, take it out your mattress and put it in the bank. Build your credit up, man. We gotta get it going.
At least some
Gotta
of
get
it.
it going. Man.
Build your credit. Like, and even if you're starting small with like a secured credit card, just to kind of start putting it out there. And again, people, a lot of big things right now is, yeah, but the interest rates are 20, 30% interest. This is insane. Here's the thing, right? This is a very interesting industry term. Have you guys ever heard the term deadbeat? Yeah. Well, we all think of it like, oh, that's deadbeat. You know, he's not going to pay. You know what a deadbeat is
What?
in the world of banking? True life thing. A deadbeat is somebody that pays their account in full every month. They can't make any interest off us.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
I want all of us and everybody watching to become a deadbeat, which means when they send you the bill
You pay it.
and you owe $100, you pay the full 100 because now they're not getting any interest off you.
Yeah.
So when they say, oh, it's 25% interest on a credit card, yeah, if you don't use it properly and you put $1,000 on it and then you only pay $100 off, yeah, you're paying 30% interest on $900. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you put $20, $30, $50, $100 on a card, paid in full every month, that's going to keep your utilization low, prepare you for trending data, and you're not paying this interest.
Oh yeah.
Well, quickly,
Best case scenario.
secured cards are not all the same because some of them don't report and whatever. How's that work? Is that good for
No, so secured credit cards generally do report.
Okay,
Yeah,
they do.
to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, there are some companies that will only, or banks or credit unions that only might send it to one or two.
Okay.
So that is something to keep in mind, and that's why you say you always review your credit at all three bureaus.
Okay. One quick thing because I want to make sure prior to we running out, we almost finished on a time, but that people know how to get you, how people reach you.
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for having me on today. BedrockCreditAmerica.org, bedrockcreditamerica.org. Go there. That's my website. It talks all about the nonprofit, what we do. Happy to do a consultation for you. You can call me at my office, 203-404-7209. Again, 203-404-7209. Feel free to reach out. Go to the website. There's a contact form there, and I'm happy to talk to the individuals. I'm happy to come out and do these type of presentations. So if there's anybody out there, you have a company, you have an organization, you need this credit knowledge, and everybody does, please feel free to reach out.
Is there a cost for them when they come and use your services?
So the consultation initially is free.
Okay.
So I'll talk to somebody. I'll kind of give them that guidance. That's what we do as a nonprofit. If they do actually want us to go in there and work with them and help the services, representing them as a power of attorney, helping them clean things up, then yes, they can actually hire us.
Okay.
That cost is dependent on exactly the work being done. And then for me to be able to go out and do these speaking engagements, we always love donations to be able to kind of help the nonprofit continue to go and get this information out there.
All right, good. Now you know.
Now you know.
That's right.
Now you know.
All right, so welcome. Thank you for coming here today. We appreciate
great, man.
appreciate it. We learned a lot. We got so much more to learn. I'm going to talk to you after the show because I have something that I'm coming up, and I may think that you may be useful to have you on with me. So now you know. We thank you. If you can find us on YouTube as well as on cable and Verizon, and we're glad to bring you more information. If you have something that you want to see in particular, you can contact me. Again, I'm Cedric, 914-645-0204. Again, that's 914-645-0204 or CedricSmithTeam@gmail.com. All right.
Now you know. Get to it.